Nothing more fun than a wedding, right? Well, let's talk about the kinds of things that narcissistic parents are likely to say or do at your wedding. Here's the thing. Weddings are emotional, right? And emotions and narcissistic people don't mix well. And there's a lot of attention involved too, right? Now, whether your wedding is tiny and understated and casual or a big bash, narcissistic parents do not behave well on a wedding day. Now, not all of these may apply to you because, as we know, there's a lot of heterogeneity and different ways that narcissism looks. It can show up in lots of different ways, but the key themes of entitlement, lack of empathy, their need for admiration and validation, their anger, their arrogance, their selfishness are all always going to be an issue. Now, as you listen to this video and you think about the ways narcissistic parents show up at weddings, please add more to the comments that may have happened to you. And this list, after you listen to this video, it may be an incentive for some of you to elope or look back at how your parents' narcissism culminated in the way you're planning your wedding, or how you got a real hard look at the nightmare that was going to be your in-laws. So, number one thing they do is they do a lot of the whole never thought it would happen joke. Narcissistic parents devalue. It's what they do, and they've been doing it since day one. So you may hear comments to the effect of, well, here we are, never thought our chubby girl would make it to the altar. Or who knew that a loser like you could trick someone into marrying you? And it doesn't feel like a joke. And frankly, it's actually not funny. But these digs are how a narcissistic parent can remain in power and get the laughs at your expense. And there's something about a wedding day, the pomp, the pageantry, the excitement, it makes your parent think that they're being funny. And as you will see throughout this video, if you do have a reasonable reaction to them, like, please don't say that, it's my day, they will gaslight you and say, oh, please, stop being so sensitive. It's just a joke. Gosh, you take everything so seriously. Narcissistic parents, like all narcissistic folks, love attention. So telling these kinds of devaluing jokes on a day when there's also a spotlight on them in a way, but at your expense, and in this vein, is common. And it can feel awful to be triggered on what is supposed to be a happy day. Number two, you may hear or be treated as you're not good enough for my son, my daughter, for my child. Now, this is a narcissistic in-law one. This may come out as snobbery, devaluation. My Johnny has always had a soft touch and always wants to rescue sad people. And a general sense that their child is doing you a favor by marrying them. The more enmeshed this narcissistic parent is with this fiancé of yours, the more screwed you are. And they may very well view you as literally stealing their child from them, which is bizarre, and may also say that in as many words. There may even be tears on the wedding day about how they're losing their child. You may have found yourself trying to win over this parent of your future spouse and recognize that nothing was going to work. You would always be the one who stole their child, in essence, their supply, away. If you are marrying the golden child of a narcissistic parent, all I got for you is heaven help you. Number three, a narcissistic mother of the bride obsessing over her dress. Yes, this happens. It's a thing. A mother of the bride who gets lost in her own weight loss cosmetic journey and says stuff like, all eyes are going to be on me, without a hint of irony. The bride in this scenario may feel secondary, and perhaps even at her own wedding gowns, if her wedding gown fittings, I should say, if her mother is present, will keep raising issues about her own dress. And make no mistake, a narcissistic mother of the bride will try to either out-sexy, out-dramatic, or outdo the bride. And this variation can also exist with a narcissistic mother-in-law to be, who may also try to wear an outlandish dress and outdo her future daughter-in-law. It is intolerable for a narcissistic person to not be the center of attention. even at a child's wedding. And the dress for a narcissistic mother of the bride or groom, frankly, is often where this plays out. Number 4 can be things like commenting on what you're eating or your body, and if you're going to fit into the dress. Body comments are a signature move of a narcissistic parent. And whether it is the horror, frankly, horror of a narcissistic parent commenting on a little young child's weight and shape, or digs at a teenager, or continuing to make comments as you come into adulthood, comments about weight and shape, and it doesn't matter, they could be saying that they think you're overweight or too thin, it's just that they're commenting on your body, is a boundary violation that speaks almost to the sense of ownership that the narcissistic parent feels over their own child's body, again, even into adulthood. And they will have no problem, particularly tossing digs at a bride-to-be, things like, oh, you're being pretty cavalier about that pasta. How was that going to work with that mermaid dress of yours? Or the dig may be, oof, keep eating that barbecue, buddy, and that tuxedo cummerbund is going to need a backup. It's not nice. Or it may even be, nobody wants to see a hollowed bag of bones going down the aisle. Eat something. Whatever it is, it will be digs related to your weight and shape, and it will be a replay of the digs you have heard your entire life and really be destabilizing at what should be a happy but at times stressful day of your life. Number 5 is this double-edged sword of either, well, isn't this over the top, this wedding? You seem to need a lot of attention, or mocking the simplicity of a wedding. This is part of the you can't win. And I've heard both versions of this. You plan an elaborate wedding, or even just a wedding where there's a lot of attention to details, and you're going to get dinged by the narcissistic parent or narcissistic in-laws about it all being too much, too precious, too showy, and then be accused of needing a lot of attention, which is really the irony on that one. Or if you decide to keep things very simple and pared down, you will get snide comments about, how is anyone here going to tell whether this is some sort of lame backyard barbecue or your actual wedding day? Some of this comes down to the players, but since you can't win, this is likely to be one more example of however you do it is going to be wrong. Number 6, the narcissistic parent will become passive-aggressive or withdrawn or sullen because they are not the center of attention and things aren't going the way they want. A child's wedding is actually a tough day for a narcissistic parent. Yes, they will grandstand and take in all the attention, but ultimately, they are in a supporting role. Now, in some cases, they may actually do the grandiose maneuver and really try to play at being the center of the event. But ultimately, people are at a wedding for the main event, and that's the people getting married. There will be times, though, during the day that the narcissistic parent will see that this day is actually really not about them, but rather about the people getting married, you as their child, or even about the wedding attendants. And you may see the narcissistic parent become sullen or petulant or withdrawn because they don't feel like they're getting enough credit or praise or attention. And on your wedding day, your day, you may still find yourself in the childhood role of having to help your parent feel better about themselves. Number 7 is they do a lot of I told you so when things go wrong. Narcissistic people, in their eternal quest for domination, need to be right. And let's face it, on most wedding days, something goes wrong. The weather, uninvited people showing up, or people showing up with a +1 you didn't prepare for, a catering hassle, a mishap with flowers, whatever it may be, things will go wrong. It's the nature of how these things go. And on a day where you just want people to support you, your narcissistic parent will be the first to tell you that, who makes an outdoor wedding? It always rains in New England in June. Or that the flowers you chose were out of season, or that your friends are selfish or whatever, and that they told you so. Number 8, they will make fun of or devalue your partner, or alternately, they'll put them on a pedestal. Again, this is a variation on that in-law theme. It is basically your narcissistic parent either making fun of your partner, someone like, oh, you finally found someone dumb enough to marry this one, or insult them, or view them as somehow unsuitable for your family. The other extreme that could happen is that they are sort of strangely obsessed with your partner. In the grosser version of this, your narcissistic parent may literally be flirtatious with your fiance, or they will try to win them over, play golf, go shopping, or show an excessive interest in your partner that they never had in you, as though they're trying to get one over on you. And then it'll almost strangely seem as though they envy you that you get to marry this partner. Again, those enmeshed and inappropriate boundaries that tend to characterize the narcissistic family systems can show up in this way. Number 9, they may be competitive with your partner. When you get married, there is some sense, again, as I've already said before in this video, that your narcissistic parent is losing some control of you, which may seem absurd if you've been living on your own for years. But this can lead to a bizarre competitiveness with your partner. Things like, I hope you know that I'm the only one who really knows how to take care of her when she has a cold. Interestingly, some folks have said that they have gotten married just to get out from under the thumb of a narcissistic family system. Unfortunately, that may not be enough, but it may leave your partner feeling as though they have to prove that they got this, and they don't need to prove that they will be better than your mother or father at caring for and understanding you. You're going to need to draw close, but it's still irritating as hell. Number 10, the narcissistic parent may say unhinged things about parts of your life, vulnerable times in your life, difficulties in childhood, that you really didn't want people to know, and you definitely didn't want being discussed this day. A common form of betrayal in any narcissistic relationship is when the narcissistic person shares confidences. And for a parent, it is a given that they will know things about you that you would prefer other people don't know, especially on your wedding day. Your narcissistic parent may give an unhinged toast at a rehearsal dinner or at your reception and start launching into your bedwetting, your dietary peculiarities, or that time they walked in on you while you were masturbating. They may also talk about past relationships you want to put behind you. It's a power play, folks, and after sharing these things, you may quite reasonably, again, have a reaction that they would do this on your wedding day, and they will either laugh at you or call you too sensitive if you have a reaction. Number 11 is they might throw a tantrum that forces everyone to stop what they're doing and focus on them. This is sort of a DEFCON 1 narcissistic parent behavior. Sometimes all of the emotion of the day, the attention that's not on them not getting everything to be their way, the entitlement that they believe that the day should run the way they want it to, the fact that there are some new in-laws on the scene, some mix of all of it can result in a meltdown. It could be a small slight, being told that they can't walk down the aisle in a certain way or at a certain point in the order, or be seated in a particular place in the reception, or just that they didn't get the hotel room that they wanted. Whatever it is, they may throw a tantrum, even at the last minute, and everyone will then have to drop what they're doing to soothe the narcissistic parent, which is what these systems do. Drop what they're doing and cater to the narcissistic person. Number 12, the narcissistic parent may bring a +1 that will upset your other parent. Not surprisingly, quite a few narcissistic parents are divorced from your other parent. And much as you want to keep the peace while still having both parents there, do not be surprised if your narcissistic parent insists on bringing their relatively new or tricky or problematic partner to the wedding, despite you saying that it doesn't make sense, that you don't know this person, or that it would simply be uncomfortable for your other parent. The lack of empathy means that they don't care that they will upset the apple cart of your day. And you will have to endure or have the self-blaming belief that maybe you're the one being selfish or unreasonable for not letting them bring their relatively new partner that they might have just met to your wedding. Number 13, they keep pushing their sense of style and the way they think they should be into your wedding day and become sullen or angry when it's not received well. For example, you want it to be the way you want it to be, right? It's your day. And if you want it at City Hall or a farm or a local park or a fancy ballroom, or whether you want hamburgers or vegan food or a fancy bespoke menu, it's your day. Well, if you have a narcissistic parent, it is not that simple. And if you don't integrate a goodly chunk of their suggestions, you may get the passive-aggressive, no, I understand, I know. Well, I raised you on my own, and wanting calla lilies seemed like such a small thing, but of course I get it. Who would want my silly preferences? I'm wondering if it even makes sense for me to come to the rehearsal after all. I mean, your fiance's parents are throwing in, and it would save them some money if I didn't come. You won't notice that I'm not there. Oh, I mean, listen, you don't even trust me on flowers. Why would you want me at that dinner? You get it. Or you might just get full outrage. Who the F do you think you are? I'm helping you foot the bill. I'm paying for this. And if I want steak, you're serving steak. Your vegan friends be damned. Or you find your own way to pay for this. And be very careful if for any reason the other set of parents are having a little bit more of an input. For example, maybe the wedding's happening at their home or in the city where they live. It's going to be a multiplier. Narcissistic parents ruin weddings. Is that simple. I have yet in all my years to see anyone with a narcissistic parent or in-law not have that experience. And eloping doesn't fix it, except that your day may be exactly the way you want it to be, but you may hear about it for eternity that you cut them out of that day. Again, you can't win. My only hope for folks in this situation is either to be prepared preemptively, radical acceptance, or have one hell of a good therapist on speed dial. Because through the years when I would hear a client who had a narcissistic parent that they had become engaged and was planning a wedding, my stomach would fall because I knew what they were in for. But most importantly, this is about you and your partner. And this is a real call to action that you draw close with your partner. Be a team. And if through this process you're learning that your partner is not able to stand up to their own narcissistic parents, keep your eyes open. Avoiding engaging with narcissistic parents and in-laws helps during this process, but folks, it's not always possible, and I know that. And listen, all of this stuff that I've been talking about in this video, if your parent has done this or is doing this, one thing here or there, I don't know that necessarily means that they're narcissistic, and every narcissistic parent doesn't do all of these things. But if you do have a narcissistic parent or in-law, I can all but guarantee that you've experienced more than a few of these as part of your wedding day. And while being prepared helps, it still doesn't fully lift the sting of how their mere presence at your wedding can turn your fairy tale into a dark comedy at best. Thanks again.